People now spend more time on social than they do on search. That's a new stat for this year. So, and that's great, right? That's what the platforms want. But what do we want as people? Well, as
No.
consumers, I think we want to obviously talk to our friends and family. But if we do talk to brands, what we know is that consumers are going out and they're talking to brands because they want to find out more information. They are researching new brands to buy from. They are collecting information. They're looking at that meaningful information, conversation, those two-way conversations, and they're seeing, is the brand responding? If they do respond, do they respond nicely? Are they helpful? Are they just trying to sell us, right? All of these things are coming into account. And I think social selling and social commerce is really where the future is going. Now, this won't happen for all brands. Like, I don't think, someone's going to book a senior care facility through, say, Facebook or Instagram. Just like with some of our financial brands, they're not signing up for their bank account or their 401k on social. So I want to caveat that I don't mean everybody, but I do think from a retail perspective, social commerce and social selling is the wave of the future.
Welcome to The Move In, a senior living marketing podcast from Unlock Health, a full-service marketing partner for the aging services industry. Join us for candid conversations exploring the latest marketing strategies with the senior living community leaders and innovative solution partners who are moving our industry forward. Together, we'll build a community to build better communities. Are your social media channels actually building trust or just checking a marketing box? Hello, I'm Larry Williams, and welcome to the Move In Senior Living Marketing powered by Unlock Health. In today's world, families aren't just visiting your website anymore, they're researching your brand through every interaction, every comment, every response, and every conversation. And in senior living, where trust means everything, social media has evolved far beyond a place to post updates. It's become a direct reflection of your culture, your responsiveness, and ultimately your level of care. In this conversation, I'm joined by social media expert Brooke Sellas, founder and CEO of B2E11 Media, for a conversation that challenges the way we think about social media and senior living. We unpack why social media has become a trust-building channel, not just a marketing platform, why meaningful conversations matter more than simply posting content, and why empathy and responsiveness are critical when engaging with families online. From AI and customer expectations to engagement strategies and handling difficult conversations, this episode is packed with practical insights that every senior living marketer can put into action right away. All right, let's jump into it. We are on the Move In Senior Living Marketing. I have someone who a lot of you know, Brooke Sellas, join me today. Brooke is a friend, and we were speaking about this earlier, Brooke, that we connected, it was the last Smash conference. You joined me for a podcast then, and it was like we just became fast friends. I'm talking about within the first 5 minutes, we
Oh,
just connected and we
yeah.
just became friends.
Did we just become best friends?
Did we
Yeah.
just become best
Yeah,
friends? I mean,
we
it was
did.
just like that too. And it went from we did not know each other. I knew that you're the keynote for Smash and asked you to join the podcast, and then just automatically we just took off from there.
We did. It just was like, is a match made in heaven, as people say. We just became friends. And then you made the t-shirt, which was
Made the
amazing.
t-shirt, yes, and we
Ah,
just had fun, got to hang out at the Smash conference, and even just connecting earlier, like, it's hard to kind of get back into, "Oh, yeah, work mode," like, we have to stop, like, joking around and actually hit record. So, Brooke, thank you for joining us. I am so excited about this conversation. We're in the Trust is the Currency podcast series on the Move In Senior Living Marketing, and I was speaking with you earlier about this. I am very bullish when it comes to all things social media in senior living marketing. It tells a different type of story. It
mhm.
really gains trust, in ways that very few other channels can provide. And just because of that, you're my foremost expert when it comes to all things social media. And you talk about not only the broadcast side, but really the conversational piece. And I think
Mhm.
that's where we can really develop more trust. So, that being said, thank you again for joining us. And before we go any further, tell us about what you're doing at B2E11 Media.
Yes. So my company is called B2E11 Media. We turn 14 in a few days here. It's in May 2026. We will turn 14 years old. So I've been doing this for what feels like forever. And you're absolutely correct. I think when we as marketers started using social, we changed it, right? This is what we do. Marketers, we just come in and we mess everything up. But we really moved it from a connection platform where we went to connect with our friends and family, and we made it into a marketing and a business platform. And that's fine. I think it's an amazing place for marketing and business. But I think what we're seeing now is that we're realizing that we need to get back to what it was meant to do, which is connect to people. And I think you'll see this in the algorithms. So every social media channel has an algorithm. This is an algorithm that we don't know all the variables of. They don't tell us what all goes into them, but they basically determine if your content is seen. So when you publish something to LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever it may be, the algorithm says, who am I going to show this content to? And one of the things that have been updated recently in all of the algorithms, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, it doesn't matter, are the importance of what they're calling meaningful engagement, which means, you know, how you can give like a like or a heart or a laugh or whatever, right? That would be engagement, but they're not calling that meaningful engagement. They're calling meaningful engagement comments and conversation. And shares are still very important because shares say, like, hey, this content is so important that I want to save it for later or come back to it.
And that makes
So,
sense. Like, in the
yeah.
world of AI, it's easy to
Oh,
just mass produce, mass broadcast,
correct.
but how do you actually engage? And I thought it was really interesting. Never thought about it, us getting back to that point. And I'm old enough to have friends that, it was Facebook was a new thing and it was only for
Yep.
universities. And so I
Yep.
just reflecting on that. That was really that starting point. And I think
Mhm.
it's great to see it come more full circle instead of a broadcast channel.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about AI, and I do think this is a big part of it, Larry, so I think you're hitting on something that's really important. AI is amazing. I use it all the time, but it is making content and imagery, right? Like, so images or videos that go with your content a commodity. Because we used
Yeah.
to have to, I mean, again, I've owned my agency for 14 years. Years ago, before AI, it would take us hours to produce all of just the text, just the copy for all of our clients. Then you add in imagery and video to add to that copy. I mean, we're talking hours upon hours, weeks, sometimes months to create a month's worth of content for a
Yeah.
client. AI can now do all of that in minutes.
Sure.
So it's becoming a commodity, which is good in some ways, but bad in others. Because when you use AI to create all of your content, a lot of times what we get, I'm sure you've heard the term AI slop. We're
Yeah,
seeing a
yeah.
lot of AI slop happening where things just sound the same, or you can tell, like, oh, that was
You can
definitely written by
yes.
AI, right?
Yeah, or the images, you start looking and
Oh,
people start having too many
like
fingers or
17
exactly.
fingers on their
Something
hands.
looks off. They have 2 knees. That doesn't
Yeah.
look right.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are pros and cons, but I think what's happening partly because of AI is that the platforms are realizing, like, look, we know that the platforms really just want you to spend all your time on that platform. If you have 24 hours in a day, LinkedIn wants you on their platform 24 hours a
Yeah,
day. So they're saying to themselves, how can I get more dwell time? Dwell times mean how much time is someone spending on social, which, by the way, people now spend more time on social than they do on search.
mm,
That's a new stat for this year. So, and that's great, right? That's what the platforms want. But what do we want as people? Well, as
yeah,
consumers, I think we want to obviously talk to our friends and family. But if we do talk to brands, what we know is that consumers are going out and they're talking to brands because they want to find out more information. They are researching new brands to buy from. They're collecting information. They're looking at that meaningful information, conversation, those two-way conversations, and they're seeing, is the brand responding? If they do respond, do they respond nicely? Are they helpful? Are they just trying to sell us? Right? All of these things are coming into account. And I think social selling and social commerce is really where the future is going. Now, this won't happen for all brands. Like, I don't think, someone's going to book a senior care facility through, say, Facebook or Instagram. Just like with some of our financial brands, they're not signing up for their bank account or their 401k on social. So and I want to caveat that I don't mean everybody, but I do think from a retail perspective, social commerce and social selling is the wave of the future. So, like, if you think of like a TikTok shop or Shopify or things like
Mhm.
that, right? Like people expect to be able, if they do want to buy right then and there, they want to buy right there on their channel of choice. They don't want to have to leave that channel and go somewhere else to make that purchase.
Yeah, for sure. And even though that we are not buying, families are not purchasing senior living options directly on social media, it is that trust. It is going back to what you said. It's do you care basically? Like, what is that level of concern and responsiveness? It sets the tone for all other communication. So, for us with a digital marketing agency, yes, you're building websites. Yes, you're connecting with groups. Really, that high intent moment through paid
Mhm.
search. But
Mhm.
at the same time, that's where groups will find you. But once they start digging in and learning more, that's going to be one of the places that they really say look in to find out what level of concern and care does this organization provide. And I think
Yeah,
that's a big part of it is
it's
just
a
really
credibility
just lean
channel.
it
Yeah.
100%. It's a credibility channel.
Mhm. Are you credible? I'm in re and by the way, they are researching you. So one
Yeah.
of the things that one of the things that consumers are doing is coming to social to research those brands, to find out exactly how credible are you? Are you credible? Are you responsive? Are you trustworthy? Those are like the 3 top questions people ask when they're in that consideration phase of the buying cycle. And so you have to start asking yourself for your own digital channels and especially on social media. Am I credible? Am I responsive? Am I trustworthy? And I
Yeah.
think we have to answer those questions honestly.
And what I really value in this next phase of this, I say marketing evolution in senior living is this is the point where you can really tell that story. And there are so many stories to unpack. Social media is the best way to leverage that, whether it's through videos, through testimonials. This is the best way to connect as humans that you can't in any other way. So if
Right.
you're able to really broadcast that part, but then connect after, I think that's the winning formula. Now,
Couldn't agree more.
where do you see brands continue to get it wrong? I'm sure there's many examples where you look at a social media post and you're like, "Oh, man, they are not hitting the mark here."
Yeah, well, I think it does start with content to your point. And now that we know, right? Now that you know because you're listening to this podcast that social media algorithms have changed and they're looking for that meaningful engagement, is your content, this is question number 1, is my content creating a spot for conversation? So if you're already creating what we call talk-worthy content, great. Next step is how responsive are we? And here's the kicker. On social media, your consumers or potential customers expect a response within 1 hour. And that doesn't matter if it's Friday night at 7 p.m. or Monday morning at 9 a.m. That expectation on social is so much faster than anywhere else, like email, chatbots, etc.
Yeah.
So that's the next spot I feel like is a spot that people can improve on.
So my mind goes in different ways. First, I'm going to just a quick note, and I always think about this. Shout out to Nathan Jones with Dash Media, who always makes sure to tell people social media doesn't need to be a checkbox. Like, don't. It's not something you just say, "Okay, I did it. I made the post. Happy Valentine's Day. Let's move on." No, you're telling a story. But that being said, we have to think about that content calendar. And
Mhm.
when you say that we need to make sure we're being responsive with comments, what's your advice to let's say social media teams who are trying to stay on top of this stuff? Like, because I'm
Yeah.
sure it feels overwhelming at times.
Yeah, my best advice here is to post less and engage more.
Mm.
And so instead of checking the box, much to your point, Larry, I think we've all kind of gotten this is a marketer thing too. I'm going to blame it all on marketers, and I'm a marketer, so I'm going to take the brunt of the blame with y'all.
Everybody blames marketers. So yeah, let's go ahead
Yeah,
and do
let's just keep blaming
it.
the marketers.
That's
But
right.
like we've gotten into the habit of that content calendar. Check the box, right?
Yes.
We must post every single day, once a day or twice a day, whatever it is for you, whatever that box check is. So we're just a lot of times we're just rushing around trying to just get that content out, check that box. So it's the Happy Valentine's Day post to your point. Well, that's not really helping us today with the way social media works. So I would say scrap that. Yes, you have to post, but
Sure.
even if you're posting 3 times a week, But every one of those posts are trying to get people to engage. It's a poll. You're asking a poll question. You're asking advice. You're sharing how you feel about something and then saying, do you feel this way too? Right? You're sharing some of that information. And then take that time that you got back from not posting just a post and go and make sure that you're checking on comments. Check in once an hour a day, knowing that the hour response time is what people expect, and respond back. But take it further. That's reactive, right? That's like waiting for people to come. Like, imagine we're in sales, which is, by the way, what most people tell me they want. When I say, like, what is your goal for your social media? They're like, sales,
Sales.
obviously.
What else?
Okay, great. So if you were selling and someone said, hey, that's a really nice car, how much is that? And you waited 4 hours to get back to them while they're standing there, they're going to leave the showroom and go to a competitor. The same thing happens on social. So try to answer them within an hour. So check in every day, answer any comments that you have. But we're being reactive, right? We're waiting for people to come to us. We're saying, like, oh, well, if anybody wants to buy a car, they're just going to come to my showroom and buy a car for me. Like, no, that's great. That's amazing. But like, most of us don't have that luxury, including me. So we need to go out of the showroom, off of our own social media pages, and we need to engage on
Mm,
other people's posts. So Larry, you and I were talking in the green room about LinkedIn. I don't know how many of you hang out on LinkedIn. That's my favorite spot to hang out. But LinkedIn has also updated their algorithm, but they are now showing you how many impressions your comments on someone else's post receive. Because what they are trying to show you, not tell you, is that this meaningful engagement is very important, but you have to go out and do it too. And sometimes, by the way, my comments on other people's posts receive more impressions than my actual posts do.
hmm. That's
Right.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really important to note, and
Mhm.
really, again, tying this back to really creating this, I'd say this infrastructure of communication and
Mhm.
connectivity. Now, one thing I'd love to get your feedback on, is see if you have advice here, which is, as we were asking our social media team to really be on top of the responses and connecting
Mhm.
with people and answering those questions. I think about some of the emotionally charged conversations that this group might have to respond to. It's different in different sectors. If you're selling,
Sure.
say it's more fashion focused, or if it's some type of apparel, it's not going to be as emotionally charged. It might be, we messed up on the order, we got your back, we'll send you another
Mhm.
one, don't worry about it. But in senior living, people might respond with their experience, like their parents' experience with a different place that you're trying to really navigate really difficult waters. What's your advice to social media teams when it comes to that side of it?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of retail brands, and that is a lot easier, but then we also work with a lot of financial brands, and then when you're talking about people's
Mm,
money, right,
yes.
that's very high stakes, high emotion, much like senior living, and the biggest thing is, A, responding quickly, right? Because
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, people just wanna be heard, even if it's negative.
Yeah.
Right? And so if
Yeah.
you can just say, "I'm here, I'm listening, I have empathy in my response and in my listening," that's gonna go a long way. 9 times out of 10, it's gonna solve most of the problems. If it doesn't solve the problem, again, I think the empathy piece comes in, and you just have to be transparent. So, like, in a financial situation or in a senior living situation, I might say, like, "Listen, I'm not privy to what happened at that facility. I can tell you at this facility, that doesn't happen. I would love the chance to get on the phone with you or to
Mm.
schedule a tour and to really go through what you experienced so I can really hear you and I can tell you objectively how things are done differently here."
Yeah. I think
And
that's a
that
win.
I'm not giving them I'm not even really giving them an answer, right? But all I'm saying is
Sure.
I want to hear what you have to say, and then I hope you'll give me the chance to show you how our facility is different.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what we're looking for at times, just be seen or heard.
Yes.
And I think about customer service now. I struggle with customer service. I think we're all in, these waiting rooms just waiting to be acknowledged. And people want to be seen or heard. And this is a
Yeah.
great way, just kind of cut through a lot of that noise and just validate someone's feelings. But then I guess I'd like to get again more direction from you. Then you can take that to more the DM side. You don't have to have this public back and forth with people, but you can then exchange that to more of a private conversation where you can connect them with additional resources.
Yeah, we use what's called A cubed at B Squared Media. So it's acknowledge, align, and action, right? So you acknowledge their feelings, whether they're good or they're bad, right? So if they had a great experience, yay, I'm so glad, Larry. Use their name, right? This is sales
Yeah,
101, use their
sure.
name. So I'm so glad that went well, Larry. That makes me so happy, right? Use feeling words, empathy. If it's a bad situation, we're still going to acknowledge, Larry, I'm so sorry that happened. I want to fix this for you.
Hmm.
Right away, I'm diffusing the situation because I'm acknowledging how Larry feels and I'm saying, I want to fix this for you. Then you align with them. So we're aligning on whatever it is they're asking for. So if Larry's saying he had a great time and he wants to bring his family in for a second tour, right? Maybe he just came by himself. Like, so glad it went well. Of course, we would love to have your family come out for a second tour. Let's like slide into my DMs and let's book a time that works for both of us or whatever it might be, right? So personality, we're still aligning with empathy, but we're aligning on what he wants. We're trying to align on solving whatever the problem was. Now, in the negative situation, I'm so sorry, Larry. I want to fix this for you. Can you slide into my DMs and tell me the full story? Or can we get on the phone so I
Yeah,
can hear all of the details, right? We want to try to take it off of that public channel because we know that social is a spectator sport.
sure.
Now, sometimes Larry's not having that. He's like, no, I want to have this talk
I'm
right
airing out my
here in
grievances.
front of
You got to
everybody.
hear it. Yes.
That's okay. Then we just have to be like, totally understand. Let's work through it. Now, let Larry say what he needs to say, and we're still going to try to align with him on like, you're right. It shouldn't have happened that way. I'm not
Hmm.
exactly sure what happened. I'd like to work on that. Would you be willing to give me a call or come in?
Yeah.
Right. Again, trying to take it offline. And then that third piece is just taking action. So whatever is needed, which I kind of already said, like, hey, let's do the thing, but getting their problem solved or just showing them love back. So we call like that the yay happy Larry. That's what we call like brand love or brand affinity. And a lot of brands that we work with will tell us like, oh, we don't even bother with those. We only focus on the negative.
Mm,
Okay, but that person took time out of their day to come comment on your review or your post or
yeah.
whatever it is on social, you absolutely cannot leave those people hanging.
Mm.
So you need to respond to those people too and take action with those people too. Is there anything else I can do for you? This is where your upsell and cross sell comes in, by the way. If you're in a situation where you can cross sell and upsell, it might not be with senior living, but this is where we find a lot of upselling and cross selling. This is where we also find what we call UGC, user generated content. So when Larry comes through and he leaves that like, oh my God, the tour was amazing. I want to come back with my family. Thank you so much. Now I'd probably wait till he came back in with his family and we knocked the second tour out of the park. And then I'd be like, would you be willing to go create a social post or leave us a review about your experience with us, right? User generated content. Larry telling everybody how amazing my brand is versus us saying, we're amazing. Buy from us.
So much to unpack there, Brooke. Thank you for highlighting so much, yeah, all of this. One thing I'd like to make note of the acknowledge, align, and action. That's incredible communication advice across the board.
I mean,
I
that's all
don't
it
care
is
if
at
it's
the end of
a
the day,
disagreement.
right?
Yeah, it really is. Whether
Yeah.
it's, for me, talking with my kids, whether
Hmm.
it's having a disagreement with somebody,
Hmm.
far often it's just, again, someone needing to be seen, heard, validated, and just how do we get to that same place? And we need to take those next steps. The other thing I want to acknowledge is how this really cuts through the noise. It's hard to cut through the noise now, because we have so many different ways to receive information. I think about our email inboxes are full. People are
All right.
not going to answer their phone if they don't know who's calling. It's so hard to connect. But if you're able to respond to somebody with a very personal message and make sure they feel validated, that changes the trajectory of that conversation and it changes the trajectory of that relationship as well. And again, it's about connecting as humans. Now, one thing I'd like to also say is I'm sure what struggle you see is when groups get to this point and then they have a canned response,
Ooh.
just like that templated, like
Hmm.
where yes, they've been, acknowledged, but you feel like you're just now further down AI and having these acknowledgments instead of having a person. And I feel like
Hmm.
that's where you lose trust again.
Yes. Yeah. So this happened to us even in the beginning, in the early days before AI was around. With a lot of clients we were working with their social media customer service, they would say, "Here's the script. Use this script. Don't deviate from the script because this is what legal gave us. This is what's approved from
Yeah.
legal." Right? So, are you sure we can't deviate? Nope, no deviate. Okay, okay. So that's really moderation. We don't call that care, right? It's because you're just copying and pasting. And in the beginning, again, following what our clients wanted, we did this. And we got accused way back when of being a bot, basically, because we were
Mm,
copying and pasting the same answer.
yeah.
So we kind of changed how we do things, and we really kind of had to educate the clients that, like, even if we have 3 different scripts for the same situation that legal approves, we need to be able to change it up because it does lose trust fast. Because what we've seen, by the way, 67% of Americans do not want to use AI for customer service. So almost 70% of Americans want a human. And that
Yeah.
makes sense because when we get into a place where, like, we all want self-service because it's fast, but if we get into a pickle, if it's a harder subject like a senior care facility or our finances or our healthcare, we're getting into those really sensitive subjects where 9 times out of 10 somebody doesn't want AI, they want to speak to a human, and it's just more complex, more sensitive, more
Yeah.
private, whatever it is. So, um I think we have to be very careful about what we automate and use AI for and what we let the humans do. And so there's a lot of really cool, amazing things we can use AI for when it comes to what we're talking about, social media customer service or social
Sure.
care. But if it's a negative situation, if it's a someone raising the flag for an issue, I don't think AI should be involved at all.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, I think that we have this flip flop far too often, which is sometimes we get the salespeople who jump in and want to guide the way. They want to be the hero in the journey. Well, I think a lot of times people want to actually control their journey and they're not looking to connect with a salesperson right away and they want to do the research. And again, going back into the
Yeah.
social media side, they're looking for trust signals. The problem is they might get a salesperson out of, like out of the gate, but when they start moving down that buying journey, then they start like transitions in customer service becomes AI instead of a person. When that's
Mm,
when we need a person, more of a personal touch. And so I
mhm.
agree with you as as we go through that journey, we need to make sure that our clients feel like they're in control of that journey, and when they raise their hand for help we need to be there to support and help. And it goes back to the first part of this conversation is how do you make someone feel valued, how do you make someone feel heard, and I think
It's
this is
so
the
true.
one of the best ways to really go about that.
Yeah, and I think we have to stop thinking about social as channels, because your customers aren't thinking that way. So if they come to Facebook to complain, or if they go to TikTok to praise, or whatever it is, they're not thinking, "Oh, I've come to this brand's TikTok channel to do
Yes.
this." They're thinking they're just talking to the brand. So we have to
Sure.
stop thinking in channels, and that means that your customers don't care which channel it's on. If you have a presence on that channel and they reach out to you there, they expect you to reach back out. They expect you to be available. So a lot of
Yeah.
people, I'll see a lot of brands saying like, "Oh, well, we don't use TikTok for this. Go, you need to take your question over here." You are now basically saying, "Hey, customer, we're active here, but not for you. So let me put the
Yeah.
work back on your shoulders and you go do this thing over on a different channel." Your
Yeah.
customers don't think in channels. They also don't think in org charts. So like a lot of times people will say like, "Oh, our social team can help you with this, but they can't help you with this." And that's true. Like in those financial brands, right? I can't give you your password or I can't see your account
Yeah.
balance. That would break a lot of different laws. Um, but customers don't think that way. They don't think about your org chart. They don't think about the channel. So you have to find a way to connect with them, no matter the channel, no matter the situation, whether you can or can't give them the thing that they want, but figuring out how to have that conversation and then get them the action, the answer as seamlessly as possible without putting the action back on the customer. Because if you put the work back on the customer, you've also more than likely increase your channel of churn if they are a customer, or decrease the likelihood of them closing if they're not a customer.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you say that we need to get out of this channel mindset. And far too often, we'll set up social media campaigns, but it's impacting, what the groups are seeing on websites, or the vice versa, where we
Right.
start pushing more on the website and really growing the SEO or the paid media, then the social media jumps up. But far too often, people want to go to where they're actually measuring the data. And I think far too often we got to get out of that mindset. And I was going to see if, like, because that's always the conversation, which is,
Mhm.
yeah, we like social media. We think there's a place for it, but we just have a tough time measuring it, and we want to invest in where we can actually measure. What I know you probably hear that a lot,
I
but
do.
yeah, and so I was going to get that feedback because that's something I hear a lot as well. When the data like showcases, like, it kind of lifts everything up. And I'd love to get your advice that you share with others.
This is a hard one because here's what's happening. Again, we kind of touched on this in the beginning. Most of us, when we think of social media and what do we have to do to be present on social media, we think of content. It's checking the box, it's
Yeah,
publishing that content. The reason why you don't see a return on investment is because you're stuck in the content world of social. I just told you social's not about content
yeah,
anymore. It's about the conversations. So when you set up your social for more of a social media customer service, conversations on social media engagement, social care, whatever you want to call it, that is how you get to ROI. This is why we have the clients that we have and why they've stuck with us for so long is because we are proving return on investment because we're showing them when we gain new customers through these social conversations, but we're also showing them when customers are ready to churn. So, in those negative moments, am I able to solve Larry's problem and keep him as a customer? And if I am able to keep him as a customer, well, I've just saved the company money, but I've also increased Larry's customer lifetime value, right? So, proving ROI on social means getting away from content and those metrics and literally getting more into these, what we call voice of customer data points. So, voice of customer data is Larry says something negative, Larry says something positive. Larry tells us he'd like us to see this kind of update or improvement or whatever it may be, right? If we collect all of that voice of customer data through social, it tells you what to post. It tells you what's top of mind for your
mm,
customers because 'cause you're listening, so you don't ever have to guess, like, "Well, what am I gonna post today?" Because
sure.
my customers' top 3 concerns are these. The top 3 objectives from, objections, I should say, from customers from a sales perspective are these. I'm able to address what I know customers are asking about and wanting all the time if I don't put content first, but last. Content is a byproduct of setting up your social the correct way, which is based on voice of customer data.
You're always like, I've always appreciate your insights, and
Thank you.
I've taken so many notes, and like, you always make me think differently when it comes to social media. Again,
Good.
it's easy. We always go back to, like, I can say, oh, we need to stop. Need to get out of this checkbox mindset, but far too often I'm just as guilty. And
We
it
all
goes back to
are.
that. And so just to
Yeah.
have and how you reframe this is really important, because something I just realized is we're thinking about this on the individual level of responding to specific clients or responding to different messages, but also, like you said, that you get to see a different perspective. It might really highlight some blind spots of some customer service issues, or some
Mhm.
of how you're serving the overall clientele that you need to address as an organization. And I keep thinking
Correct.
about, like, where there's smoke there's fire. So even though there's a handful of people who are responding and they might have some negative feedback, there's probably a lot more going on that you need to dive into.
Yes, give me all the negative. I give me
Yeah,
all the negative because the only way I'm improving and changing and becoming a brand that all my customers want to buy from, nobody's perfect, but you know what I mean,
sure.
um, is from that negative feedback. So I do not shy away from the negative. The negative is a gift. Instead of
Love
just
that.
churning and leaving you, they have come to you and given you the gift of feedback. And what they are saying is, I care about you. I want to stay with you. It's like any relationship, right? But you've got to start putting your dishes in the dishwasher and not leaving them in the sink. And if 10 customers, if that's the number one complaint, then start putting the dishes in the dishwasher. And now all of
Yeah.
a sudden you've completely eradicated that specific complaint those people are happy. And now I can't wait to get the next top complaint so I can fix that one too.
Love that. The gift of feedback. And I agree
So
with you.
true.
There's so much that we're speaking about. It goes beyond social media. I think it's just life and
It really
communication, right?
is.
I mean, just seriously, like we
Yeah.
can't improve anything that we're not aware of. I go back to a conversation I had recently with Amy McKinley and Libby Lauer about mystery shops. And we can't
Oh,
improve something that we don't know that's
mhm.
happening, that what's happening. So I think this is something we need to really take as a positive. And I know we're out of time. My last question to you is there anything that we did not cover that you think we need to really highlight in this conversation?
No, I really think it's a mindset shift. And I know that that is very hard. And that's why I'm out here talking to people like Larry and becoming best friends with people like Larry because I really want everyone to understand that social media has changed. It's not new anymore. It's been around for a long time and it's very different from how we used to look at it before. So if you can stop putting so much time, energy, budget into content and start putting some of that time, energy, money into that voice of customer data, like we're talking about, I think social will become a much easier place for you to achieve your business objectives, whatever it is that you're trying to do. If it's sales, this is how you do it.
That was the walk off, and I appreciate it. Last time we connected on a podcast, I ended up making one of your quotes a T-shirt. I think I could probably make 5 T-shirts on this one. So you're
I
the
love it.
best, Brooke. Hey, where can people find you? Are you going to be speaking at any future conferences? Tell us more about where people can really connect with you.
Yeah, I speak at many conferences. I'm traveling like 2 times a month from starting in April all the way through December. So, if you do wanna hire me to come out and speak, I'd love to, but reach out because those I have very few spots left for the remainder of the year. I hang out on LinkedIn as a social media channel. If you wanna come hang out with me there, just look for Brooke Sellas, or you can go to our website, which is b-squared.media. So our company is B Squared Media, and the URL is dot media, B Squared dot media.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we highlight that in the show notes. Going back to the t-shirts, I think, the next t-shirt needs to be almost like a band t-shirt that has all their concert
Oh,
locations.
yes.
That's what you need is on the back of the t-shirt and all your speaking
All this
engagement.
all the speaking
Albuquerque, New
locations.
Mexico, like
Oh, that would be very
yes, that would
cool.
be
I
kind of
like
cool.
it.
Yeah, talk about
Mm,
the conference and, the city. That might be kind of cool.
that is cool. I
Just throwing
like
it
it.
out there. All right. Brooke, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Larry.
Thanks again for joining us on the Move In Senior Living Marketing, and a huge thank you to Brooke Sellas for joining us for such an insightful conversation around trust, communication, and the evolving role of social media in senior living. One of the biggest takeaways from this episode is that social media is no longer a place to post content, it's where families go to evaluate trust. Every response, every interaction, and every conversation becomes part of the customer experience. And here are 3 actionable takeaways that I made notes of during the conversation. First, post less, but create content that encourages real conversation and engagement. Second, respond quickly and personally to comments and messages to build trust. And third, use customer feedback from social media to improve communication, service, and the overall customer experience. I also love Brooke's reminder that feedback, even negative feedback, is a gift because every conversation is an opportunity to learn, improve, and strengthen relationships. Thank you again, Brooke, for joining us. And until next time, let's go create some meaningful connections.